Welcome back to Gaming Night. I'm your host, G.A.M.E.R here, and welcome back to another ranking. This week, we're going to be taking a look at my top 5 Metroidvania games. Oh yeah, I'm so excited to do this because Metroidvanias are just my ever-growing, favorite genre, dude. I swear, every time I play a Metroidvania, it, goes up on my list, and it's definitely, I think it has to be top 5. At this point, I think it was really close in my most recent genre ranking, but I think it's getting there. And that's because we're doing this ranking because a game just came out that I actually just finished 2 hours ago at the time of recording this. And that is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That is right. Prince of Persia made its return after so long of being absent. And it returned with a whole new format, as in Metroidvania. And, yeah, we'll see if it racks up with my top 5. Spoiler alert, it's in here. But where is the question? And what are we comparing it to? What are the other games in my top 5? And what are the games that really stand out of why I love this genre the way I do? That's what we're going to be discussing right now. But with that said, if you guys enjoy this content, leave a like, leave a comment section down below provided. What are some of your favorite Metroidvania games, or what are some genres you want to see me rank as well? I'd love to do whatever you guys want. And if you would, consider subscribing. Would really appreciate it. Help me out a lot. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. And keep in mind, if you want to go watch my last one, I did my top 10 fighting games of all time because Tekken 8's coming out soon. So go check that out if you want. But for now, let's get started with my Metroidvanias. All right. So, we got my little Topsters chart here again. I really like this thing that I've been doing with Topsters. That's kind of what we're going to be using for majority of it. And let's go ahead and let's get started with the first one. And this one, I feel like, is kind of the outlier within the bunch because it's not your typical Metroidvania. And that's because it's 3D, right? That's because it's 3D. Not many Metroidvanias are most are that 2D platforming, but there are games that are Metroidvanias that are not 2D platforming, and this is in my opinion, probably the biggest example. I mean, the definition of it. Like, when you think 3D Metroidvania, this is the first one you think about. It's regarded as one of the best games of all time, and I completely agree. Metroid Prime, dude. Metroid Prime is just phenomenal. Now, I'm gonna put the remaster here just because that's the one I did play. And I do think it is better. I have played the older one, but I didn't finish the older one. I did finish the remastered one. That's because I was really late to Metroid. If you guys don't know, Metroid is my favorite Nintendo franchise, which might be another reason why Metroidvanias are one of my favorite genres. Metroid is my favorite Nintendo franchise, as well as Samus is my second favorite Nintendo character. I just absolutely love it. And, yeah, Metroid Prime, dude, it is the prime example of using gameplay, map, and progression to further the game, right? It is the bread and butter. It's the definite. Honestly, all Metroidvanias are kind of that, but I think all of them have their strengths and weaknesses, whereas I think Metroid Prime, its strength is everything. I think its strength is everything. Now, the only reason it is not higher on the top 5 is purely because I personally find the 2D platforming very enjoyable, to a point where it's very different, right? At the end of the day, this is just a first-person shooter, which I'm not knocking it for that. It does it phenomenally, and I love first-person shooters. But I think when we're talking about the Metroidvania genre, I do tend to prefer the 2D platforming over the 3D. Now, that being said, I think the 3D is still wonderful. I think it is still amazing. I think it's still a blast. I have an absolute fun. I have no real critiques other than I just prefer 2D platforming. That's not even a critique about the game. That's just my personal opinion. It is still a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and it is just absolutely phenomenal. I just absolutely love Metroid Prime. It still holds up too, which is crazy. I mean, this came out originally on the GameCube, man. It's so good. The whole targeting system, the whole turning into a ball thing, everything is just works perfectly for that genre, and I just love it. I absolutely just love it. Now, I will say, there is another game on the top 5 which isn't your typical 2D platforming Metroidvania, but we'll get to that later. But as for our next one, you heard about it earlier. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. I absolutely loved this game. It was just incredible. It was just phenomenal from start to finish. You're going to finish it in around, depending if you straight line it. I did not. I did quite a bit. I'm like 70% through the game, I think. When you look at the percentage, when you go to your save file, it says like the percentage of game completion. The main story ends around 45%. I'm at like 71% or something like that. So I've done so much side quests, and the thing is, I've done this all in under 2 days. The game technically hasn't fully been released at the time of me beating the game. I beat it during early access. I paid the extra $10 and I got 3 days early, and my God, was that the best decision of my life. Okay, it was the best decision of my life because I just played it 2 days straight. I absolutely love it. You're gonna beat it in around, if you mainline the story, I'm thinking like maybe 10 to 12 hours. But if you do what I did, I'm probably about like 18, maybe 20 hours in. Yeah, I've played a lot in 2 days, and it's just because it's so good. It's so good. Now, I will say it's not a masterpiece because, in my opinion, okay, now don't twist this the wrong way. I think the weakest part of the game is its story. That being said, it is still really good. It is still a really good story. Now, the problem is it's the weakest because all the other aspects are just top tier, okay? All the other aspects are just top tier. But the story is still good, and I think it works for what it is. There are some things I wish they did with the story to help improve it and help further it, make it a more standout aspect of the game. But when I think gameplay, I almost think it's the best gameplay in a Metroidvania game to date. I really do think so. The only ones I think that would even come close are Ori the Will of the Wisp and Hollow Knight. I think those are the only two that come close that can compete with its gameplay. In terms of its combat, hands down, Prince of Persia is the best Metroidvania I've ever played. Now, in terms of platforming, that's where it could get a little tricky because it does have insanely good platforming, but there are some other Metroidvanias that have insanely good platforming as well. And Prince of Persia just takes presentation to another level. The animation is unlike any Metroidvania you will play. It is pure intensity, hype. It is anime as all ever. It is colorful. It is artistic as all ever. It is just awesome what this game was able to do visually and gameplay wise. And like I said, it does have a good story. It is captivating and engaging from start to finish. I love a lot of the characters. It's just, yeah, it does a really good job. And honestly, the music is also a huge standout for me. I really did love the music that the game had to offer. On top of that, man, it just has great boss fights. It has so many things to it. It has a very deep system with like amulets, with like upgrades, abilities, all that. It really is a passion project, and that's something I have to give Ubisoft, of all people, credit for. Is that every frame of every cutscene, every fight, every area of the map, you could tell it is a passion project, and that's something we don't get from Ubisoft very often, and it's something you love to see out of games. You could tell they wanted to make this game, and they tried their absolute best to make this game, and they absolutely succeeded. It is a gem, 100% would recommend. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but it is so good. Not every game has to be a masterpiece. Not every game has to be a Game of the Year contender, and this is a pure example. While I do think it does have a true shot of being a Game of the Year contender, it just is phenomenal, and that's all it has to be, and it does it to its fullest extent. It is just incredible. Moving on to number 3, third place. I just talked about it a couple seconds ago, and that is Ori and the Will of the Wisp. If this is not on everybody's top 5 list, don't talk to me. I'm just joking. It doesn't have to be in your top 5 list. You're right. It needs to be. Look, Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Whether it is probably the best visuals in a Metroidvania game, or whether it is the best story in a Metroidvania game, Ori has it. On top of that, beautiful music, debatably some of the best gameplay. It has some of the best platforming. It has really great combat. It is just from top down, from border to border, frame to frame, start to finish. This is a masterpiece. There is, honestly, while it's not my number one, there is no Metroidvania experience better than Ori and the Will of the Wisp. You will leave remembering everything you did. You will leave thinking about that game for weeks. You will leave wanting more. You will leave satisfied. You will leave crying. You will leave laughing. You will leave a new person. This game takes what video games are so good at, giving you a just immersive, unforgettable experience. It is the definition of that. And that's just because of its loving characters, its exciting gameplay, its gorgeous music, its beautiful visuals, and its incredible, incredible story. This is a masterpiece. This is honestly the only reason it's not higher up is just because I personally fell in love with 2 other ones more. But here's the thing, guys. This is why I say Metroidvanias are so good. All 5 of these games are in my top 50 of all time. There it is. It's just that good, guys. Metroidvanias are just that good, and Ori is a pure example of that. Now, coming in at number 2, this one you probably didn't expect because a lot of people don't actually consider this a Metroidvania, and which I do understand that, but it really is. Like if we take Metroidvania as a formula and a system and a build of a game, right? It doesn't have to be 2D platforming as we see with Metroid Prime. While it typically is, it doesn't have to be. And this one is another example of that, and that is Death's Door. Now, Death's Door is a roguelike as well, but it is actually, it's not even a roguelike. It's a Souls-like. That's what it is. It's a Souls-like top-down Metroidvania game. If we're looking at the progression, and if we're looking at the map layout, and we're looking at the build and elements of the game, it is very Metroidvania inspired with like top-down Souls combat. And that's just what I absolutely love about this game. This game does not hold back on challenge, which I love, but what it does have is like absolutely. I'm running out of words to say for great. It has a great art style, just a wonderful art style. I mean, the color varieties they use. There are some areas that are very dark and grim. There are some areas that are very colorful and bright. And then there's like pastel-y areas, and there's like very saturated areas. The art style knows exactly what it's doing, and it works incredibly well. It has some of, in my opinion, here it is. It has the best music of a Metroidvania game, and it just has so addicting combat. Well, I think the combat in Lost Crown or Prince of Persia and Will of the Wisps are like better, more like in depth. I think Death's Door has the most addicting gameplay because it is that Souls-like combat where you just have to analyze everything, and it's just so satisfying when you finally get it. And it's a lot of rolling, a lot of dodging, a lot of perfect timing things. Whereas Prince of Persia is more like hack and slash-isk, as well as Ori, where these two excel more at platforming. Whereas I think Death's Door is completely focused on, just combat. And I think I really resonated with that. I just love the whole exploration on the top-down Metroidvania. I think it's something we need more of. I really do love it. And yeah, it's just it's my favorite indie game of all time, so that might also be a little bit of a push of why it's up here with all of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, all four of these games, right? And this is a really hard list for me to make because I love them all. I love them all so much. They're all in my top 50 of all time. And it's just the fact that they just are so fun to play. And no matter if they're challenging like Death's Door, no matter if they're a franchise that I haven't really been into ever, and that's Prince of Persia, whether it is a different type of genre like 3D first-person shooter, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It is just so fun. And my number one is the definition of it. And here's the thing. What's weird is I think a lot of aspects about this game are not as good as some of the other aspects of all these other ones. And I'll explain here in a second. My number one is Metroid Dread. So, on a one-for-one basis, if we look at all the different aspects of what make a game, if we look at gameplay and combat, I think Lost Crown and Will of the Wisp and Hollow Knight all do it better. I think combat and gameplay wise, those three do it better. I really do think so. If we look at story, I think Ori and the Will of Wisp has that hands down. If we look at music, I think Death's Door, Prince of Persia have that. If we look at visuals, I think Ori, Prince of Persia, and even Metroid Prime have that. Even Death's Door, I would even argue, because of its awesome art style, have it better than Metroid Dread. But here's the thing. Ain't nothing like Metroid, dude. Ain't nothing like Metroid. You let me know another Metroidvania outside of Metroid Prime that I can go to get Samus, space, really cool sci-fi stuff, and that's what I love about Metroid. It's a complete personal opinion. I just said if I'm going objectively towards this, which I don't typically like doing, I don't like objectively speaking about games because that's just not how games work. This is all personal. This is all biased. Personally, I just attached to Metroid Dread the best. I think, now here's what I will say. I do think it has the best boss fights. I think I'll say that. It does have the best boss fight. I mean, Metroid Dread boss fights are just on another level. They are incredible. And what I will also say is Metroid Dread, I think, has the best world out of all this. I think when you get into the lore, when you go to all the areas, when you see all these bosses, and when you see all these environments and different areas, I think Metroid Dread also excels at that, right? So you don't have to have all the best elements to be your favorite or best game, right? It just has to resonate with you, and that is exactly what Metroid Dread did for me. It just resonated with me, and it could also be that was pretty much the first Metroidvania I ever played. Granted, I'm a late Nintendo fan. I became like a Nintendo fan around 2019. Like, okay, I played Nintendo my whole life, but when I really started taking it seriously, like PS5 and Xbox, right? It was around 2019. And Metroid Dread came out 2021, so I played that. That was my first Metroidvania, and then after that, then I went to play Ori, then I played Death's Door, then when Metroid Prime Remaster came out, I finally finished that, and now Prince of Persia. I've played Hollow Knight in the mix, I've played some Castlevanias, you know, I've played so many Metroidvanias, but Metroid Dread has always just kind of been that gold standard bar for me that I don't think I've personally just fallen in love. And like when I think my favorite Metroidvania, I just instantly think Metroid Dread, because that's the one I personally enjoyed the best. And it's not because it has some of the best aspects, even though it does have really great aspects. But what I will say is I think this is just like Metroid Prime. I think it has the most balanced experience across the entire game from start to finish. I don't think it struggles in any area. I don't think it's the best in any particular area. I did say a couple areas I do think it is the best, but I don't think it is the standout number one aspect of any area. I just think it is a complete balanced, in my opinion, perfect game. It is not perfect. No game is ever perfect, but it is as close to perfect as you will get. It is, it's so good. I just love it. And ladies and gentlemen, I just love Metroidvania. All 5 of these games are just phenomenal. I love them. I love them. And what I will say about Metroidvania is they have a lot of replay value, and you gotta love that. You gotta love that. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, definitely leave a like, leave a comment in the section down below provided, and please subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. G.A.M.E.R out. Peace.